Hello, my name is Benjamin Hart. I'm an American attorney and the Managing Director of Integrity Legal here in Bangkok, Thailand. In this video today, we're going to be discussing marriage visas in the specific context of the U.S. Embassy in Phnom Penh, Cambodia. As you can see from the aforementioned preamble to this video, we are based here in Bangkok. I am an American attorney, but the firm is based here in Bangkok. The bulk of our work in U.S. immigration matters does revolve around Bangkok and the U.S. consular, or the consular section of the U.S. Embassy here, primarily are cases that are going to end up at the U.S. consular section here. That being said, we do take other cases in the region. I do deal with a fair number of these rather frequently. Cambodia is one I deal with probably more often than any other country in the region, if I'm being very specific. Kind of depends on the year, I guess. But that being said, the K1 we discussed specifically in another video. That's a fiancé visa. This video we're discussing U.S. marriage visas specifically. So for now I'm talking about the CR1, IR1, or the K3 visa. There's another video on this channel which specifically goes into the K3 visa, and I'm going to sort of leave it to that video to discuss that directly, as there are some specific things to think about with respect to the K3. But suffice it to say, the CR1 and the IR1, CR1 is conditional resident category, IR1 is immediate relative, and the person that enters on an IR1 enters in unconditional lawful permanent residence as opposed to conditional lawful permanent residence to the United States. Generally speaking, I'm talking about foreign nationals, specifically Cambodian nationals, married to an American citizen, although some of this analysis could apply to a lawful permanent resident in the United States trying to bring their Cambodian spouse over as well. But I'm going to kind of keep it more on point with respect to an American citizen seeking to bring a Cambodian female or male spouse to the United States. So the thing to think about with respect to Cambodian nationals applying for marriage visa benefits to the U.S., it's kind of a three-part process insofar as you have to initially deal with the Department of Homeland Security and their United States Citizenship and Immigration Service apparatus. Then you got to go ahead and deal with the National Visa Center, which in the context of immigrant spousal visas, the National Visa Center is a very different animal than when you compare it to the K categories, the K1 and the K3. In the K1 and the K3 cases, in those cases where the K3 gets processed through, in a way, NVC just acts as a sort of a clearinghouse or sort of a postal hub, kind of, if you will, to make certain that the case gets from USCIS over to the correct embassy abroad. With respect to U.S. immigrant visas, the NVC's job is much more broad in scope and depth, for that matter. They do a lot of document collection. They will do follow-ups if they feel there's a document deficiency or they feel that more information is necessary. In another video on this channel, we discussed the so-called extreme vetting protocols of the Trump administration right now. I don't know, specifically I haven't seen anything with extreme vetting happen yet at NVC, but I could see theoretically sometime in the future extreme vetting protocols may pertain directly to NVC at some point as well. But that being said, they have a much more active role in immigrant visa cases. Once they are satisfied documentarily at National Visa Center, they will then go ahead and process the case out over to the embassy in Phnom Penh, and an interview date will be set at the embassy. At the interview, things can happen like what are called a 221G, request for further documentation, where basically the interviewing officer determines that they would like to see something more with respect to the case. Generally speaking, after an NVC vetting, this isn't very frequent, but it does happen. I shouldn't say that it's infrequent. It just, in K1s it can happen quite frequently because sort of the circumstances are different. Marriage visas, the cases tend to be more clear-cut, I guess is the right way to look at it. But that being said, basically the point I want to get across is NVC will set that interview appointment. It'll get over to the embassy in Phnom Penh. Then you got to get in for interview. We oftentimes do interview prep with our clients so that they have an understanding of what's, generally speaking, what the officer is probably going to want to know regarding the application or regarding the specifics of the person making the application. And the other thing is we provide some insight with respect to the protocols for how the case is going to be taken in and dealt with at the post. So to sort of sum up, I think the way to look at the overall process of applying for a U.S. immigrant visa is this. It starts in the United States with the Department of Homeland Security. It moves over to the NVC, which unlike the K categories, the NVC has a very active role in this process. And then finally, it's going to end up at the U.S. Embassy in Phnom Penh. And at that point, the interview is going to take place, and it's possible that more documentation could be requested, and you may have to deal with a follow-on submission before, hopefully, the visa is ultimately approved.